everybody, it's Priscilla from Heart and Soul Studio in Sutter Creek. If you need to get in touch with me, you can give me a call, 209-256-9702. I really appreciate you joining me today for our online version of this spring bunny. In your kit, this is what you should have received. We've got all the pink colors here off to the right. Here's our cute little bunny. This is our hello stencil. You can use this or you don't have to. He's pretty simple. Today's project should take about an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. So bear with me. You can definitely add more time to your project. You can pause this video, rewind it, come back and finish at your leisure. So that's kind of the beauty of an online class like this. I'm going to start out with the background, which is your teal blue here, and then we'll work into all the rest of the colors. In your kit, you should have received all of these colors. Should be more than enough there. Okay, so let's get started. I'll revert back and show you the bunny every so often. Okay. So I'm going to start off with a little detail brush. Going to outline my bunny, this dark chocolate. We'll come back in and we'll fill in the background. This is just something to have fun with. I've seen all sorts of really cute little versions of this guy online and all the different arts and craft places that I like to follow. I'm working from home today just because sometimes it's easier to stay in, but in the future I'll probably be working from the shop. I'll give you a little tour and walk around. My studio is located in Sutter Creek. Most of you have probably already been there. This little guy will be really sweet to bring out at Easter time year after year. It's always nice to know that it's something that you made yourself. My lines are pretty loose and a little bit jagged, so don't worry if you don't have a super steady hand. We're just trying to establish the outline of the rabbit so that you don't lose it when you paint your background. You can do his nose now if you'd like, and his eyes. Just picking up that little chocolate color. Can even connect his ear here. Okay, so I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to pick up a bigger brush for that background. You could even use like a 1-inch chip brush, whatever you have. You can add just a tiny little bit of water to that and Actually, let me finish the rest of his body here. So to get the majority of the background done, I'm going to use this bigger brush. And then I'll come in and cut around his ears. When I paint, there's no real rhyme or reason to get started. Just trying to get some good coverage. Can pick up a little bit of the off-white and mix that in. So how's everybody doing? Coming up with any creative ways to stay entertained other than sipping painting? We've been playing all sorts of board games around here. Teaching my one younger son to play chess. And I have a husband and 2 sons, and my older son is off to school in Reno, and he hasn't come home yet just because he's got a job and girlfriend and friends and an apartment. So it just worked out that he stayed at Reno. But my younger son has been home, and he's going to start online school this week. So I think he's looking forward to that. This is his senior year, so he was a little bit concerned with how everything was going to work for him. Okay, so I just really loosely brushed in that area back there. And then you also want to make sure and get your sides painted. That way, if, you know, chances are you're not going to get this framed. So when you hang it, it'll have a nice presence just with it being painted around on all 4 sides. Okay, so I'm going to take a smaller brush and I'll start cutting in the rest of this area. We'll work on letting the background dry. Just go nice and slow. It's okay if you get a little bit of brown out in the other areas, you can just blend it with the bigger brush. Just cutting in around his ear. Most of the specialness on this type of a painting, in my opinion, is in the layering. You know, as your painting dries with the background, you'll be able to come back in and add more layers of this blue. And I think that makes it a lot more dramatic. Pick up some of the different colors that are on your brush, and when you brush through, you never know exactly what's going to come out, and that's kind of fun. You don't have to totally clean your brush off every time. Some of that shadowing in the background of the yellows or the greens, the browns that come through are kind of cool. Happy little accidents. And you all know who says that, right? Our friend Bob, Mr. Ross. So sometimes if the paint's too wet, you're just going to keep spreading it around. So it's nice to just let it sit and rest for a minute. The top of mine. Okay, so I'm going to rinse out the blue. I'm going to start in on the brown for the rabbit, the bunny. So I'll just give you a look here, what he looks like. I'm going to start with the honey brown and just going to fill in all over. Then we'll come in and start highlighting. So this is the honey brown here, and this is more of the chocolate brown. So I'm going to start with the honey brown. Can start forming his little bunny cheeks already, pushing that paint around so that it looks like he's got a nice round chubby little face. Can start on the ear, or just kind of go wherever feels good to you. We're just going to get one nice solid coverage with this first layer. Brown was, then as it dries, we'll start adding some of that texture and highlight. So every time I paint something, I'm always saying that it turns out different the second time. And it just really depends on your mood and how much time you feel like investing in something. And it is totally okay to come back to this if you're just not in the zone. You know, pick it back up in the morning or something and keep adding to your design. His little hair kind of toughs out here. Could go out of the line a bit. Use that brush stroke up through here. Up until the last few weeks, I've not really done any kind of online classes, but I do find it rewarding and very peaceful. So I'll probably keep that going, even when we do open the studio back up. I guess one good thing about all this is it's really stretched us out of our comfort zone. Trying new things and coming up with new ways to do things. New ways to stay connected. So this is really fun to have new friends painting with me. So if you'd like me to ship you a canvas with the sketched out bunny and paints, I am totally open to do that. You can just follow along with this video. Most of us have paints and canvases at home, and so if you'd like to sketch out the bunny yourself, make him your own, that's exciting too. I'd love to see what you come up with. Across his chest, there's this little V here, so kind of start following the paint texture in that little V shape through here. We'll put that dark line in just a minute. It's almost like the bunny is just popping out from the grass, like he's got his little rabbit hollow. So I'm going to paint his chest down into the bottom here, if you can see that. Okay, I'm going to rotate this canvas around so I can reach the top of his other ear, and I'll flip it back around. Okay, so at this point you can start mixing in some of that chocolate with a little bit of the honey brown. Just kind of start creating some shadowing. Lots of blending. Create that little V coming off the corners there. Kind of bring his little tufts of hair in towards the center. Start establishing that texture with your paintbrush. Fill in that cute little nose. A little bit of brown for the background, but we'll come back over it with the light pink. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to a smaller liner brush. I'm going to fill in his eyes. I always like to keep my bristles on my brush kind of twisted to a point. Okay, get his little eye done. Kind of let that black dry and build up. Come back in and start giving your brown some outline. This is just a very, very loose brush stroke here. I don't put too much pressure on my brush. I'm trying to be real feathery like this. Just a real wispy. And come back in with that little V across his chest and feather that in. With the paint still wet, it'll blend nicely. And it'll kind of get covered up as we come back in with some other layering. It's really just a very light wispiness that we're after here. Spin him around with that other ear. Kind of a messy painter. I find that I like the success that I achieve by like fixing my mistakes, I guess. It just adds more layering and textures. I'll put his eyelashes in and his whiskers at the end because I like to be able to keep building onto the coloring. Starting to look like something here. Pretty cute. So I just picked up a little bit of off-white and a little bit of the honey that was still on my brush. And I'm going to start coming in with some of these lighter colors over here, giving those highlights. It looks like he's got a little dirt on his face. He's been rooting around in the garden. I try to keep all my highlights on this top left. A little bit more of the off-white and a little more honey. Give him some fur here. He's just a fun little whimsical rabbit. A little more of the off-white. When I'm doing these brush strokes, they're pretty long and almost like a dry brush. Pickups. I'm not washing my brush. I still have some of the off-white and some of the honey brown, and I'm dipping into the light pink, and I'm going to pick up just a little more of that off-white. I'm going to come back in through the ear. My brush doesn't have a ton of paint on it, just right at the end. Could even take some back off if you have a little bit too much, and just start feathering in that pink color along as a highlight. Go back over all the areas I just touched and just start adding some pinks in. You don't want to over blend it because then you'll lose that pink color. Just pick up a little more if you want to see more pink, if you want to see more brown. Those pink rosy cheeks in there. Clean up my liner brush. I had black on it, so I'm going to clean that off. Drag it to a point. And go back to that pink and the off-white and just tone it down just a touch. I'll color in his nose. He had a pink nose. It's just really kind of light and wispy. Come back in with some of that honey brown if you go out of the lines too much. Clean my brush off. I tap it all around. So I'll give you a look at the original. So again, every time I paint, it's a little different. So we're just going through all the same brush strokes. And this guy has just got layers and layers all over. Same colors come out as highlights and shadowing. And then too, once your paint dries, your next layer will look different. So I just made a little mix. I've got honey brown, the off-white creamy color, a little tiny bit of black, so I'm making more of a gray, and just a little bit of the chocolate. Just kind of put it off to the side. You just want this to be like really like a light gray color. I'm going to come in and just do some more shadowing on his cheeks. Down his sides of his body here. Through his ears. Pick up a little more of that pink and kind of swish it across his face here. Trying to create like the inside of his cute little ear. Get some more of that pink. Gonna be real wispy with his little area up here. And I'm going to pick up some of that turquoise. My brush is still dirty with all that other gray that I've just been using. Just going to blend it in. A little abstract look through here. And again, I'm just brushing it through on his cheeks, brushing it through. Getting all, basically representing all the colors that we just used. But it's a real light dry brush effect. If you start seeing too much of the color, you can brush through it. Add a little bit of white. Whatever your favorite color is that you're working with here, just make it your own. The name of this game is Layers. So just keep layering. So everybody's home today, so don't mind if you hear my family talking in the background. We're building a retaining wall in our backyard, and we're having all sorts of landscape material dropped off, so a lot of action going on here today. so cute. He already has a little personality. See the top of his ear there. So if you want to take some of the paint off your brush, you can do that, and maybe just lightly wisp some of it through your background. Should be nice and dry. Dirty it up a little. He's been having fun in the garden. He's kicking up the dust. At this point, I'm just going to let him dry. We can go back in and start giving him all sorts of highlights and little facial features under his eyes here. We're going to work on this little flower area, okay? Don't be alarmed. It's pretty simple. He just has these two little vines that are coming off each side here. You can make these as tall as you want them. If you want to come up a little bit higher, you can. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep them right to about the middle of his cheeks, or just below the middle. We'll draw those in first, and we'll come back in with some of the little grass. My flowers are pretty easy. Picked up a tiny little bit of black, just ever so slight, and I'm going to darken up my green, make a little tiny little bit of darker green for the stem. I'll just kind of use this really loosely. Okay, just going to wisp those in like that. There and here. And I'm going to show you how I do these little vines. Just come around like that. Mimic that over here. Just add as many as you have room for. It's totally a free-for-all, however you'd like to do it. Okay. Well, I still have the green on my brush. I'm going to do a stem over here and then a leaf for that flower. And then I'll do that again over here. Just a stem. Just a leaf down in the corner. Okay, we'll kind of let those dry, and I'm going to fill in the leaves on this little vine here. You see that? So then I'm going to pick up some of the off-white, and I didn't clean my brush. My brush still has some of that green on it. Just going to start giving it highlights. You can pick that up and mix yourself a lighter green altogether. Add a little bit of that turquoise to it. So now I'm using a little bit of off-white, the green, and the teal. I'll come back in and just do another little swoosh, color change. Again, it's all about just layering and having fun with it, adding more colors. So you can take that little liner brush that you've been using and start doing some wispies. Kind of drag it through. You don't want too much paint on your brush. Again, it's kind of just dry wispiness coming through. Put those flowers in after we get all of our wispy little grass in place. Just add a little bit to the front of his chest there. Make it look like he's popping up from behind it. Okay, so we're going to let that dry just a bit. Okay, so for the little flowers that I've done here, you want to use the coral and the pink and the off-white. You can shape these in however you'd like. I usually just do like a nice big circle and then cut those petals in. So And this one's just a very loose, like kind of schoolgirl doodling. So I'm going to use the bright salmon color for the background of this. And then I'll come back in and cover it up. Put another one here. Just make it a little scalloped flower on this one. Just by pushing your brush out and create the little petals. Then as you come through on your layers, you can just keep following that little design. That can just go off the side of your canvas. Okay. I'm going to keep my brush dirty. Still has the salmon color on it. I'm going to dip into that black. I'm going to give the centers of my flowers some life. There's that. Pick up some more black with my little liner brush and then come back in on the leaves and give those little veins. Just really light pressure. Make them more wispy. Same with the shadowing on your little grass vines here. Just kind of flick your wrist up. I'm like loading my brush up, and then I'm taking most of it back off, and I'm bringing my bristles to a nice thin point. You want your bristles to be nicely shaped into that thin line when we come back in and do the whiskers and the eyelashes. So if you're happy with your background on your bunny, on his fur and his little complexion, you can go ahead and put in some of those finishing details. So I'm going to do the little eyelashes. The longest one is towards the center of his nose. And then they just get a little bit shorter as you go out on the 3 lines. So it's just 1, 2, 3, kind of quick dry brush motions. You can kind of put your hand down here and 1, 2, 3, really short little motions. And then same with his little character lines here. And sometimes it's easier if you rotate your canvas around so that you can do that same patterning. 1, 2, 3. And if you don't love them, you can come back in and work on that. And here are his whiskers. It's really, really light, okay? So that top one's a little bit arched. When I say light, I mean the pressure that you're applying to your brush. So if you didn't get enough on there, like I feel like I didn't get enough down here, you just come back in, swoop those in. I think it's best just to not overwork those. If you do have to come back and touch them up, you can just kind of swoop back over with the blues or the browns. I say don't overwork them because I have a tendency to do that. Okay. I'm going to clean off that black on my little liner brush. Remember to always kind of twist it into a point. And I'm going to take that little detail brush, I'm going to dip it into the light pink and some of that off-white. I'm going to go over here on this flower that I started on first because it's the driest at this point. I'm going to create those petals. I'm just going to go out like little kind of pizza shapes. All these colors are coming together now, you'll see. You can pick up some more white, whichever color you like your flowers to be, and just start enhancing them. can pick up some more of that salmon if you like that darker salmon color to show through a little. Okay, and I'll basically just do the same thing on this little flower here. Now if you can zoom in here and see. So some of the light pink, some of the off-white. We'll just make those big petals. Don't worry about these being perfect right now. You're just trying to establish the shapes. You can come back in and spend some more time with your details, your little petals. I just want to give this one some highlights. Push your brush around. Pick up some of that lighter pink. Push that paint into the shape of a petal. And you can overlap that flower. Put a little bit of white on the tips. I'm going to clean my brush off. And pick that black back up. And clean up the centers here just a little. You can add more flowers if you'd like. I would let those dry now. And at this point, I'm going to come back in with some white. Switch over to my little bit bigger brush. Go in and give just some more highlighting. My bunny should be nice and dry now. Come in on your leaves. And this is just a real dry brush. Come in on the top of his nose. Keyword here is abstract. Abstract and whimsical. Pick up some more of that brown if you'd like now. Just keep going around and getting those layers in. I know a lot of people are tempted to just stop because it looks cute, but you're totally welcome to stop. But a lot of times this is where the fun really starts, because the paint's dry and the layering starts having that really pretty effect. Pick up some of the white, give him a little shimmer to his eye here. Still have the liner brush. I'm just going to go around and give some more highlight. He is pretty cute and just about done. You can spend some more time adding more brown layers to his little face, to his ears. Just Keep picking it up and brushing back and forth. Just have fun with it. If you get a little too crazy with a color that you don't love, you can always come back in with more of the honey brown. Okay, so we are just about done. I'll rinse off my brush here. This background here is nice and dry. At this point, you can totally be done with him. He is adorable just like this. On my original, I did not add the word hello, but I did put the, digitally I added it. So if you really liked the way that looked, I included a black or a sticker stencil so that you could paint it black. And I can show you really quickly how to do that. Okay, so we're going to peel the back of this sticker off here. There's 3 parts. You've got a clear, a blue, and then this black graph paper backing. So we just want to pull those apart. You want to keep that nice and flush. You don't want any of the blue to come off on your white. So just pull those apart. You know, on a small little project like this, you can basically just hold it in your hands. If you had something larger, you'd want to lay it flat on the table. So just decide where you want your hello. Place it like that. And then you want to peel off the clear transfer tape. So find a little spot where it separates, and then just pull it back nice and slow. Okay, so then it's going to want to pull up on you. Just hold it down in place and walk it off. Push all those blue bits back down. If you didn't buy the kit from me, you can totally freehand this part. You can say hello spring or welcome, whatever you want it to say. I would just maybe do it with a pencil first and then come back in. Okay, so with your sticker stencil in place, you want to go back over it with your finger and just kind of outline where the paint is going to be applied. I'm going to just get a tiny, tiny little bit of paint on my brush. And then I'm going to daub most of it back off so that I have a very, very dry brush. Okay. And I'm just going to lightly tap If you have a dauber or a makeup sponge, that also works. The key with this is to just tap. Lay that down. You don't want too much. This is just going to be a really nice light, kind of distressed hello. Just using the side of my brush. If it bleeds a little bit, you can come back in with your background color and clean the edges up. But you should be okay as long as you're not oversaturating your brush and you're not pushing or pulling that color under the stencil. Just go slow. You don't want to hurry it up and make a mess. Better to come back with a second layer nice and dry than it is to come in heavy with the one big first coat. So when you pull this sticker stencil away, it's going to have little bits of the insets still left on the board, so don't feel like you messed up. There's still just going to be some parts you have to remove. You can do that with just a little pin. Okay, so we want to take this off. Okay, and those are the parts that you still need to pick out. So you can use a pin. I just have a little weeding tool here. This is all just garbage. There you have it. So, hello. So this is about it. I think I'm going to finish off here. You can come back in and give more highlights, add some more texture to your background, add some highlights to your flowers, or however you'd like. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a really happy spring and have a good weekend. Again, if you need anything, you can just contact me on Facebook, or you can send me a message on email. You should have all of that information. It was included when you purchased your kit. So thanks again. Have a great day. Bye.